Hi, this is Shane Bryan from the Bad Boys Podcast. While the Bad Boys Podcast is on a break, I decided to launch a brand new show featuring interviews with some amazing guests that we've had, as well as new interviews that I've done on my radio show on LAFM. I've had so many interviews that I've done and so many more planned now. The show is called A Long Way to the Top, and if you'd like to hear more, then search for Long Way to the Top on the platform that you're listening to right now. Enjoy this special Bad Boys presentation of Long Way to the Top. This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. In the words of the immortal AC/DC, it is harder than it looks. These interviews will give you a glimpse into the lives of the artists that we've sung along with, danced and rocked out to. Some go deep into their past and others celebrate their recent releases. But all of them show that regardless of who you are, it's always a long way to the top. Back in the early 80s, they were Dexy's Midnight Runners, and now known just as Dexys. Over 1 billion worldwide streams, 3 top 10 albums in the UK, 2 #1 singles, a Brit Award and a multi-platinum selling album, Too-Rye-Ay, and now they've come home with a new album called The Feminine Divine. Since the early days of searching for young soul rebels and Too-Rye-Ay, through to now there have been 2 constants. One is the infectious dancehall music, and the other is lead singer Kevin Rowland. Enjoy this episode of Long Way to the Top with Kevin Rowland from Dexys. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Shane.
Now, I want to dive right in. Listening to the tracks that I've heard so far off the new album, The Feminine Divine, it feels like a deeply personal album, the tale of a journey. And your new single, of course, is Coming Home. Where have you been?
Yeah, I've been around. We did the album Irish Dexys Do Irish and Country in 2016. And after that, I just felt I needed a break, really. And I wasn't feeling great. So I did some courses and, worked on myself a bit. And then about 2021, I thought to myself, actually, I could do some music now. And during that time, I'd had quite a shift, I started to look at women in a different way, and that's reflected in the track, The Feminine Divine. And, I had something I felt to write about, whereas previously I didn't. So I just thought, okay, what songs have we got? We had Coming Home, a rough version of that demo from years ago. And then we just thought, okay, what have we got? Let's write some new ones. And then before very long, I realized that to put the songs in a certain order, that it forms a narrative, it tells a story. So that's what we did.
I was going to say that it's not very often that you see an album that is thematic like that takes you on a journey rather than just a bunch of songs that you've recorded. What's the main message that you would like people to take away from the album?
There's no real message. It's just a journey, and maybe people will relate to it. Maybe they won't. Hopefully they'll find it interesting because, like you said, there's good, there's dancey beats. There's kind of, it's musical as well as, it's not just like a message. It's musical. It's entertainment. It's just I don't know. I didn't think about that. It's one man's journey, and I can't really think too much about how it's going to be received. I mean, obviously you've got to make it sound good, but you've got to tailor it to your own standards. It's really all you can go by. You know what I mean? If I start trying to think, what will they like? I'm in trouble. So I'll just, make it as good as we can. And it's a story of a man's journey. And some people might relate to it and some people might not, obviously. And some people will like it and some people won't, but I like it. I think it's the best we can do. So
yeah, I think it's fantastic. I want to sort of look at the main sort of song, Feminine Divine, which is obviously the first single that you released from the album and is the name of the album. Do you think that we've become a society that is just too masculine? That, we're not embracing the beauty of the feminine, I guess, dare I say, energy?
It wasn't written, about society, but I think so. Yeah, I do think so. I can only say my own experience. And I was brought up in a very macho environment where, women didn't really have much place, and they weren't really taken that seriously, actually. you know, and me amongst it. And that was the information I was given. I couldn't really be any different. It was only when I sort of started to investigate it myself. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think so. I mean, even the track "Feminine Divine," most of them well received. You know, and I try not to read social media comments, but occasionally I do. And you know, one guy, or at least one guy, maybe a couple, wrote in, put a comment. I'm not going to join in this man hating. You know, which is obviously it's not man hating at all. But you know, no doubt women have been held down,
and not just in society, but you know, also in the music industry as well. I mean, it's been reflected through the music industry. I feel that women have really struggled to reach, you know, that same level that a lot of male orientated bands have.
Yeah, well, it's a very male energy industry, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You know what I mean? The whole energy of it, and even the music is, you know, the music and the style and all that, it's male energy, really. So it's been quite difficult. That's why when in the 80s, when we got Helen O'Hara in, it completely changed because it brought a feminine energy and it changed the whole sound.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the first time we've done it. We hadn't considered it previously, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's been hard for women to fit in because the male energy has been so dominant, you know. So I guess things are changing a bit. Well, they really are. I watched Glastonbury this weekend and it was great.
Yeah.
You know, there was, I forget the name of that artist, but black female singer, quite big.
Lizzo.
Yeah.
Lizzo. Yeah.
And it was really entertaining. And it was really entertaining for me to watch the audience because it was nearly all women. You know, it kept flashing to the audience on the BBC and it was nearly all women. There was hardly any men in there. And women were loving it.
She's got a very strong, I guess, stance when it comes to, you know, being who you are and being authentic.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. No, she's great. She's really great.
Yeah.
And and I just, the more the effect, you know, love some of it, I get some of it, I don't. But just the effect that it was having on the women was really powerful to observe. They loved it, you know. That was feminine energy, you know.
Yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to go back to the early days, back to Too-Rye-Ay, and I guess this is really a new phase in the life of Dexys. But take us back to those days of Eileen and Gino. I was just, you know, re-listening to the song that we've heard a million times over and over again, and there's one lyric that really stood out that said, you know, Too-Rye-Ay, you'll hum this song forever. You'll hum this tune forever.
We can hum this tune forever.
Yeah.
Eileen will hum this tune forever.
Yes.
No, I didn't. You know, you're not thinking of 20 or 40 years. You know, you're just not thinking like that. We were trying to write the best song we could so that we could have a hit and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep the band together, which was breaking up because we had no money.
Yeah.
You know, so that's all we were thinking about, the best song we could write. I thought it was really good.
It was fantastic. And like, you know, you reached this point where, you know, as you said, the band was breaking up, you had no money. Suddenly you've got this song. What happened then?
Well, we worked hard for 18 months or whatever, just going around everywhere promoting. Or in the US and stuff. And it was good largely, you know.
Yeah.
And then we just took a break and wanted to do something different. So we did an album called Don't Stand Me Down.
Which was equally as good.
Yeah, but in a different way.
In a different way, exactly.
Yeah.
You weren't overly happy with the final mix of Too-Rye-Ay though.
No. I mean, I was happy with Eileen and one or two others, but I felt some of the slower songs like Old, Until I Believe in My Soul, Liars A to E, they didn't sound as they should have done. They just sounded too middly, just too hard. They weren't letting the tenderness of the music come through. Yeah. So we got the chance on the 40th anniversary to remix it. So I jumped at the chance, you know.
Yeah. And look, it's a great remix.
Yeah.
What was it? Because the record label just said, okay, that's it. We've reached the point now where we want to release it.
Yeah, at the time, I knew it wasn't right, and I just said to them, "Look, the mixes aren't right on some of these. can I go in and remix them?
Mm.
You know, I mean, I didn't know how to remix, but can I go in with an engineer or the original engineer or somebody? And these aren't sounding as good as they can. They went, no, that's the budget spent. There's no more money.
Mm.
And it was ironic that it was the album that was way more successful than any of the others, and that was the one that I was promoting. I always felt a little bit fraudulent promoting the album because I thought, it's not bad, because it was never going to fall below a certain standard because the songs and the performances were good. But
Yes.
what happened in the studio, the playing wasn't fully captured in the mix. In fact, it was quite neutered, some of it in the mix,
Mm.
It was compromised.
Mm.
So I was really glad to remix it, yeah.
But isn't it funny though? I'm the same. I'm a perfectionist. I want things to be, exactly right. But it's almost like we could keep going and keep going, and
No, it's not like that.
it's
It's not like that at all. No, not in the slightest. All you can hope for as a recording artist, for want of a better word, is when you leave the studio, the album that you finish is as good as it can be.
Yep.
That you feel you've done your best and it sounds good.
Yes.
You've got it as good as you can. I had that with Searching for the Young Soul Rebels, the first album. I had it with Don't Stand Me Down. I had it with My Beauty.
Yeah.
Had it with One Day I'm Gonna Soar. Didn't have it with Too-Rye-Ay. I just had that annoying feeling that it wasn't right. So it was as simple as that. It was just something that always bugged me. And I was walking around where I live, and it was coming up to the and I just thought, oh, it's coming up to the 40th anniversary. I just had the thought, I wonder if the label would be up for remixing it. I spoke to my manager, and he said, yeah, they are. So that's what happened.
40 years. That's incredible. Incredible. What's the inspiration for you musically? Yeah. Like what gave you the inspiration to start writing?
I think I always had it. And I think what it was, what I really want, I always liked music and I wanted to do it. But I think it was just to prove that I could be somebody. That was it, really. To prove that I wasn't a failure in life, that I could be successful at something. I wanted to prove it to myself and to others,
Tough life growing up, in Birmingham?
I wasn't in Birmingham. I grew up in Wolverhampton until I was 11, then Northwest London. And then I moved to Birmingham when I was 20, and that's where we formed the band. So we get associated with Birmingham. But some of it was tough. Some of it was tough, I didn't find school very easy or any of that stuff. I didn't like it, Didn't find it a very healthy environment, really.
Yeah. Yeah. We learn a lot more now.
Oh, yeah. I learned a whole lot more since I stopped learning from the age of about 11, really. I was just sitting there hoping they wouldn't ask me any questions,
That's right. Are there any artists that you can look back on and go, yeah, that they really sort of inspired me to excel at what I'm doing here with the music?
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely Van Morrison. When I heard Astral Weeks, also when I heard It's Too Late to Stop Now, I think he took the music places I didn't even know music could go.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it could go that deep, and that beautiful and that powerful. I didn't know that could happen. I thought music, entertainment and great, and this is your tribe and all that. But, he just took it somewhere else, not all the time, but on some of his tracks, and that was an inspiration. Roxy Music was another great inspiration. I mean, I was uneducated, but I knew as soon as I saw them, this was more than music, this was art. So those were the big ones for me. And soul music, soul music was a massive inspiration. The groove, the feel, the meaning they managed to get into their records, a lot of those soul artists,
You brought a lot of I guess instruments like the mandolin and very Irish sort of influences into some of your songs. Would you say that traditional music really has played a big part in the formation of your style?
I don't know, really. There's two things that were going on. Not necessarily. I mean, it could have easily been some other kind of music. I liked electronic music and stuff like that, but we were always trying to be different, And the idea of putting in, a mandolin sounded different, a violin sounded different, And also, I did like to sort of sneak a few Irish influences in, and it felt like sneaking in because at that time it was the height of the Troubles, and a lot of in this country they didn't want to hear about Ireland really. people didn't want to hear anything Irish really. And this was before the Pogues,
Yeah.
which they broke down a lot of walls, you know. But before that, you know, there was a lot of anti-Irish feeling, and that transmitted. So it was like it just was. There was just a wall of silence around anything Irish.
Were you nervous going into, you know, a song like "Come On Eileen," where it had a very strong sort of Irish influence in the sound?
I wasn't nervous, no, because I felt kind of defiant. I just thought, this is ridiculous. You know, this is ridiculous how you're not, nobody wants to know about anything about Ireland. And there's all this great stuff and there's all this great music. And so that was a driving force. But to give you an example, the biggest radio station in Birmingham at the time was called BRMB. And they played Eileen, Come On Eileen, for the first time when it was just released. And they played it. And then after they finished playing it, the DJ said, "I'm sorry if that record caused offense to anybody. Perhaps we shouldn't have played it," or something like that. Because
Really?
there'd been a bomb a few days earlier in London. I mean, as if that had anything to do with us or a song, you know.
Yeah.
That's what things were like.
I mean, it had nothing to do with it. You were talking about the love of a woman called Eileen.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
But it was Irish, you see, and they equated that. Anything Irish they didn't want to know, didn't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what was going on.
I guess in a way, you know, Eileen really broke down a lot of barriers, didn't it?
I guess so. You know, even that wasn't the intention. Just wanted to make a track that was great. And I felt like, you know what, putting some Irish influence in and getting away with it, because there was a lot of soul, Tamala type style in there as well. Putting the Irish influence in there felt subversive.
Yeah.
It really did.
A bit naughty.
Well, it was definitely more than naughty, because, you know, it was only 5 or 6 years earlier that in Birmingham, they were talking about, people were talking about stringing up the Irish, you know, after the pub bombings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a tense time.
It'd be tough if you were an Irish band coming into the area as well, like, you know, your U2 and all that. I mean, imagine, you know, what bands like that went through, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they went made for America, didn't they? Which was a good move.
They did. They did. Very clever.
You know what I mean? Obviously, there's none of that prejudice in America.
Yeah.
But that was a good move. They didn't really, I don't think they bothered that much with England too much.
Yeah.
I mean, they toured a bit, but it was mainly about America for them. Yeah.
You've been, you know, accepted world over. I mean, I feel like musically from that point on, in particular, the world was your oyster in that respect. Going into places like America and that, was it hard? Was it really tough for them to understand what you were doing musically?
No, I don't think so. No, I think the shows went quite well, but it wasn't very feasible for us to record, to keep touring, because there was 11 of us in the band.
Yeah.
Like U2, and there was 4 of them. So they just, you know, it's cheap. You can do it. With us, it was really expensive. So, you know, we just couldn't afford to keep touring over there. And supposed to really cement your success over there, you've got to keep touring, you know. I didn't really want to do that, to be honest. I find it very creative, you know. It's just like, I can't write on the road.
Yeah.
I just can't. I've tried it. I just can't do it. So I just find myself just looking at the drummer's neck, the back of his head, for about 5 hours a day in the bus or whatever, you know. And
that's exciting.
It's a bit much after a while.
That's it.
If I was an artist, perhaps I could draw it. You know, but there you go.
You're talking about the number of members in the band. You know, you had 11 members at one point. I mean, you've gone through a lot of members in Dexys. Now you're down to just the 4 main members.
Yeah. 4 main members. There's going to be 6 with us on the road. There'll be 6 of us in total when we tour. But just there's a core now. Yeah, really strong core. Everybody's got their place, and everybody's contributing more now. You know, it's not. I'm still the leader, but you know, Mike and Sean are a lot more involved, and Jim. You know,
and of course, Big Jim. I mean, you know, he's been with you for a long time. You know, I think he was on the Too-Rye-Ay album, wasn't he?
He's on the Too-Rye-Ay album. He's on the first album, Searching for the Young Soul Rebels. He's on every album, every Dexys album.
Yeah.
He's the only one apart from me who's been on every Dexys album. Jim's like, he's such a big part of Dexys, you know.
Now, the new album, Feminine Divine, I'd love for you to talk me through some of the songs, or talk me through the album.
The album's got a narrative, and track 1 is The One That Loves You, where the guy's kind of saying, you know, he's basically, he's in a relationship and he's saying, you know, if anybody comes on and tries it on with you, I'm going to beat them up. He's saying that.
Yeah.
And then in the second song, It's All Right, Kevin, he says, that's not really the truth. That's not really who I am. And he says, you know, he says things like, I've tried so hard to be a man and now I don't care if I can. My life has been one long fight. And he's talking about all his struggles, and he struggled to fit up to that masculine image. And, you know, there's some backing singers who say, it's okay, just relax, go slow. Don't worry, you'll be okay. Just, you can change. And then in the third song, I'm going to get free, he makes a statement. I'm fed up of this mind-made stuff that I've been living in. And the fourth song, Coming Home, the video's just come out for that one.
Yeah.
You know, he's moving forward. And then you get into the feminine divine and so on, you know.
And I love that you're not scared to you know, put terminology in the album, like, you know, goddess, which, you know, I think it kind of gets thrown around a little bit, you know, too much. But I think in the context of your album, it fits beautifully.
We don't really think about too much, you know, like what other people are doing and what other people are saying. I didn't even know the goddess word gets thrown around. We just write from our hearts, you know, where we're at, what we're feeling, what we think, what we believe. And that's what we did.
You know, where to with the album? Are you planning a tour?
Yeah, we've announced a tour in the UK in September. And October, Europe, and we're about to announce US in November. And we're playing all theatres. And the first half of this show, we're going to be acting out the album. There's a female protagonist called Claudia. She's going to come over from America. And we're going to act out. So we're going to perform the album dramatically, the whole narrative. And then there's be an intermission. And then we'll come back and play the old stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. And just finally, musically, what are you listening to right now? I like to ask this just to find out where everyone's head is at from a musical perspective. I know you mentioned Lizzo.
Yeah, Glasgow. That's the main thing I've been listening to the last few days. I can't really think beyond that because that was a lot of music.
It was a lot, wasn't it?
I watched a lot there. Yeah, I thought Elton John, you know, great. You know, it was very moving to watch him perform all them songs. You know?
Yeah,
very moving. Man, it changes every day for me. I'm always just
Well, look, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really appreciate your time, and can't wait to see the reception for the new album. From what I've seen so far, like you said, you don't like to go online and see many comments, but from what I've seen, the reception so far for the music has been fantastic.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Shane.
Thanks, Kevin. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Bye then.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast, and head over to Facebook at the Long Way to the Top podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.